Hi guys, welcome back to Macbeth. We are now in Act 4, I believe scene 3. Last time we didn't get through the entire scene because it was pretty lengthy in combination with scenes 1 and 2. But just to recap, at the beginning of this, or the beginning of this video, Macbeth, as promised, sent somebody to Macduff's house to murder his wife and children. Although he was already forewarned by the apparitions that he didn't need to harm Macduff because Macduff was not a threat. Meanwhile, Macduff was in England trying to convince Malcolm, which is the rightful heir to the throne, who is the rightful heir to the throne, Duncan's oldest son. Macduff was trying to convince him to come back to Scotland to fight for their country. But Malcolm basically told him he was a terrible king, and Macbeth will look like an angel next to him. But we saw at the end of that speech that that was all a ruse just to find out whether or not Macduff was being sincere. So that's what we're picking up today. Malcolm had told us basically that he was already on his way to come fight for his country. The King of England has lent him 10,000 soldiers, and he is ready to go to battle. And now that he has Macduff on his side, he feels a little bit more confident, but Macduff is not so convinced right now. So we're picking up here today. Again, this is Act 4, I believe, Scene 3, half about midway through, and we'll pick up from here. So I hope you all are with me. Please make sure you have your notes out and take notes accordingly.
Now, we'll together, and the chance of goodness be like.
Sorry. Let me start that over.
Now, we'll together, and the chance of goodness be like our warranted quarrel. Why are you silent? Such welcome and unwelcome things at once. 'Tis hard to reconcile. And
okay, so just as a reminder, this is after Malcolm got through telling Macduff that he was going to be so terrible, he would rape all their wives and children. He was going to take all the money in the land from anybody who owned those things in his country. And now, then he's told Macduff, man, I was just playing, just trying to find you out. Of Macduff, now Malcolm is saying at the end of this, why are you silent? Macduff is like, listen, such welcome and unwelcome things at once, 'tis hard to reconcile. I'm not sure what I should believe. Now, you did all this to find me out. I don't know if I should believe you. So that's where we are in that little part.
a doctor. Well, more anon. Comes the king forth, I pray. Aye, sir. There are a crew of wretched souls that stay his cure. Of their malady convinces the great essay of art. But at his touch, such sanctity hath heaven given his hand, they presently amend. I thank you, doctor. Doctor exits. What's the disease he means?
Okay, so this is a part. Remember, I told you when reading Shakespeare, not everybody gets every part. I do not really understand what's going on here. All I can make of this is the King of England is sick. There's a doctor who's coming to tend to him. And then there's some information here. So for this, we will rely on the side of the book, which is what it's there for. And again, I'm not afraid to admit that this is a part that I really don't get. I can piece together what I do get, but not well enough to explain to you all. So we're going to rely on the textbook here to tell us what this means. Okay, so according to the side note, it says Edward the Confessor, King of England, could reportedly heal the disease of scrofula, the evil, by his saintly touch. The doctor describes people who cannot be helped by medicine's best efforts, the great assay of art, waiting for the touch of the king's hand. Edward has cured many victims of this disease. Each time he hangs a gold coin around their neck and offers prayers, a healing ritual that he will teach to his royal descendants, succeeding royalty. Now, I'm not sure what's the nature of this history, why it's included in the play. That's something we may be able to explore as a class when we come back together, but this is pretty much what's going on here. So let's just get through this part.
'Tis called the evil. A most miraculous work in this good king, which often since my here remain in England, I have seen him do. How he solicits heaven, himself best knows. But strangely visited people, all swollen and ulcerous, pitiful to the eye, the mere despair of surgery he cures, hanging a golden stamp about their necks, put on with holy prayers. And 'tis spoken to the succeeding loyalty he leaves the healing benediction. With this strange virtue, he hath a heavenly gift of prophecy, and sundry blessings hang about his throne that speak in full of grace. Enter Ross.
All right, so all I can gather here is that this king, they're showing us his personality. You know, apparently he's prophetic, has some kind of healing powers, etc. And again, we can discuss in the class the scope of this in the play, because remember, no details are totally random, and we may want to explore how this connects to the other information that we have.
Ross. So who comes here? My countryman, but yet I know him not.
My ever gentle cousin, welcome hither.
I know him now. Good God, but times remove the means that makes us strangers.
Sir, amen. Stand Scotland where it did. Alas, poor country, almost afraid to know itself. It cannot be called our mother, but our grave, where nothing but who knows nothing is once seen to smile, where sighs and groans and shrieks that rent the air are made, not marked.
All right.
Violent sorrow seems a modern ecstasy.
All right, once again, that always catches me, right? So now Ross has come from Scotland. So Macduff says, see who comes here? And Malcolm is like, oh, this is my countryman, but I don't really know who he is. And then he recognizes him. Oh, I know him. And then he says, good God, betimes remove the means that makes us strangers. That means get rid of Macbeth so I can see my people again, right? So now they're asking him, stand Scotland where it did, right? Is Scotland still in the same position that it was when we left it? And Ross is, agreeing with that. Of course it is. My poor country, it doesn't even know who it is anymore, right? Personification. We cannot call it our mother, but our grave. So it was once such a beautiful place, and now it is just under ruins, thanks to Macbeth.
The dead man's knell is there scarce asked for who, and good men's lives expire before the flowers in their caps, dying or ere they sicken. Oh, relation too nice and yet too true.
What's the newest grief?
That of an hour's age doth hiss the speaker. Each minute teems a new one.
How does my wife?
Why, well,
And all my children?
well too.
Okay, so this is a very poignant question, right? So Macduff basically says, oh, I know what you're saying. It's all so true. And so Malcolm asks, what's the newest grief? What's the latest bad news we have? And he was like, oh, it's been an hour for me to get here. So I don't know, because bad news happened so quickly there. I'm not sure how this goes along. But Macduff asks, how does my wife? Now, here's our dramatic irony. As an audience, we already know she doesn't do well because she's gone. But Ross answers, why? Well, right? Why does he answer this way? And then Macduff asks about his children. And all my children? And Ross says they're well too. I want you to consider, why might he say that they're well? Do you think he doesn't know what happened to them? What's going on here? Why would you answer somebody in this manner? Listen carefully.
Tyrant has not battered at their peace.
No, they were well at peace when I did leave them.
Be not a niggard of your speech, how ghost.
All right. So now when Macduff asked the question, the tyrant has not battered at their peace, it almost seems as if he expected that he would, right? Remember Lady Macduff was fussing about Macduff taking off and leaving them as sitting ducks for the tyrant. Here, it almost seems she might have been right? Because if you expected them to, then really, why are you asking, all right? But then again, Ross says, no, they were well at peace when I did leave them. They were doing fine when I left. But Macduff expects something different. He says, be not a niggard of your speech. And the word niggard simply means stingy, right? Don't be stingy with your speech, tell me. So Macduff expects that Ross knows more than what he's telling. Now, I'm not sure if this is from his tone of speech and we're just not capturing it, or the actors aren't capturing it, But Macduff suggests here, but with this question, that he knows a little bit more than what he's telling him.
When I came hither to transport the tidings which I heavily borne, there ran a rumor of many worthy fellows that were out, which was to my belief witness the rather, for that I saw the tyrant's power afoot. Now is the time of help. Your eye in Scotland create soldiers, make our women fight to doff their dire distresses.
Okay, so here, this suggests what Ross's response is that I heard some rumors and I know what was happening, but I really don't want to tell what's happening. So Ross is like reluctant. Who wants to be the bearer of this kind of bad news to tell Macduff that his wife and his children are dead? So he's kind of like trying to change the subject and talk about something else. Listen carefully.
Be their comfort, we are coming thither. Gracious England hath lent us good seaward and 10,000 men, an older and a better soldier none that Christendom gives out.
Would I could answer this comfort with the like, but I have words that would be howled out in the desert air. Their hearing should not match them.
All right, so here, this is Ross confessing that I have some news that I must tell, right? So he seems compelled. So up here, he tried to switch it back to, listen, I saw the tyrant's power afoot. This is a time for us to come fight because we have to get rid of Macbeth. We have to get rid of it. And Malcolm is saying, okay, we coming. England has already given us our 10,000 soldiers and we're coming. But now Ross says, I wish I could answer this comfort with the like. I wish I had a answer for you that was similarly comfortable, but I don't. I have words that would be howled out in the desert air where hearing should not latch them. I have news to tell that no one should have to hear. Listen carefully.
Concern there, the general cause, or is it a fee grief due to some single breast?
No mind that's honest, but in it shares some woe, though the main part pertains to you alone.
All right, so Macduff says, is it general bad news or is it something due to a single breast, right? So one person, and he's like, no mind that's honest, but in it shares some woe. Anybody would feel troubled by the news that I have to tell, but the main part pertains to you alone.
If it be mine, keep it not from me. Quickly, let me have it.
Let not your ears despise my tongue forever, which shall possess them with the heaviest sound that ever yet they heard.
Ah, I guess at it.
Your castle is surprised. Your wife and babes savagely slaughtered. To relate the manner whereon the quarry of these murdered deer to add the death of you.
All right, so here it goes. He has just spilled the beans, right? He tells him, listen, Macduff, let not your ears despise my tongue forever, because this is the heaviest sound I'm sure that they have ever heard, right? So he goes on and tells them that they were savagely slaughtered, right? Savagely slaughtered. Macbeth is ruthless in his kill, although he's not killing personally at this point. He is giving orders to do so. All right, listen carefully.
Merciful heaven.
What man? Now pull your hat upon your brows.
Give sorrow words.
The grief that does not speak whispers the o'erfraught heart and bids it break.
What is Malcolm telling him to do? All right, what is he saying to him? Merciful heaven, what? Man, never pull your hat upon your brows. Give sorrow words. Say something, Macduff. The grief that does not speak whispers to the overfraught heart and bids it break. You can't keep that kind of stuff in. Go ahead and let it out, man. Say something. Express your anger.
Bake my children too, wife, children, servants, all that could be found, and I must be from thence. My wife killed too. I said,
Be comforted. Let's make us medicines of our great revenge to cure this deadly grief.
He has no children. All my pretty ones? Did you say all? Oh, hell kite. All? What? All my
chickens in their dam at one fell swoop.
Okay, so here, when he says, you know, he can't believe it, my kids too. And you said that my wife is killed. Ross says, I have said, like I've already said that, right? And now, after Malcolm was just encouraging him to say something, Malcolm says, be comforted. Let us make medicines of our great revenge to cure this deadly grief. Let's go after him. Do the same thing to him so your grief can be cured. But Macduff responds very harshly. He has no children. So there's no way to cure my grief because I can't kill his kids. And then he's reflecting again on his family. All my pretty ones. Did you say all? Everybody? Right? My pretty chickens in their dam in one fell swoop. Listen very carefully.
Dispute it like a man. I shall do so. But I must also feel it as a man. I cannot but remember such things were that were most precious to me. Did heaven look on and would not take their part? Sinful Macduff, they were all struck for thee. Not that I am, not for their own demerits, but for mine, fell slaughter on their souls. Heaven rest them now.
All right, so our motif of manhood is coming up again, right? Dispute it like a man. Malcolm is like, stop doing all the whining now. Let's go back and get our revenge to fight. We've seen this repeated so many times. Men are going to take revenge. That's how they show, their remorse or whatever it may be. That's how they dispute things. They handle their emotions through fighting. But Macduff rejects that doctrine. He says, I shall do so, I will do it, but I must also feel it as a man. Men cry too. And Macduff is saying, listen, I can't but remember such things that were most precious to me. This is my family. And where was heaven in all of this? Did they not take their part? All of my family was innocent. These people were killed on my behalf, right? And I have nothing, right? Not that I am not for their own demerits, but for mine. They were killed because of my sins, not their own. All right, listen carefully.
Be this the whetstone of your sword. Let grief convert to anger. Blunt not the heart, enrage it. Oh, I could play the woman with mine eyes and braggart with my tongue. But gentle heavens, cut short all intermission. Front to front, bring thou this fiend of Scotland and myself.
All right, so once again, Malcolm is still on this manhood. Be this the whetstone of your sword. Let this be the thing that makes you want to kill, that drives you to the kill. Let grief convert to anger. Blunt not the heart, enrage it. And Macduff is like, oh, you don't have to tell me. I could play the woman with mine eyes, which means I could cry, right? I could play like the woman by crying, and I could brag with my tongue by talking, but heaven help me. All this intermission needs to be cut short. Front to front, bring thou this fiend of Scotland and myself, meaning I want to handle this like a man, face to face. I really don't have time for all this in between. At this point, I need to get my revenge directly on him.
Within my sword's length, set him. If he escape, heaven forgive him too. This tune goes manly.
Come, go we to the king. Our power is ready. Our lack is nothing but our leave. Macbeth is ripe for shaking, and the powers above put on their instruments.
Receive what cheer you may. The night is long, and it never finds the day.
All right, so Malcolm is praising that manhood, that because Macduff says, set him in sword's length in front of me, and if he escape heaven, forgive him too, right? He needs to be forgiven if he gets away from me, which means I don't intend for that to happen because I'm going for the kill. This tune goes manly. Malcolm said, now you sound like a man. That's what I want to see, right? And he says, our power is ready. Our lack is nothing but our leave. We have everything we need right now, right? Macbeth is ripe for shaking, and the powers above put on their instruments. Now, here we have that supernatural power alluded to again. On Macbeth's side is the dark power, but clearly Malcolm is talking about powers above. So he's speaking on God's terms right now. The heavens are on my side, and this is now the time for us to do this, okay? All right. So we are finally moving into our final act of Macbeth, which is Act 5. Listen carefully.
Act 5, Scene 1. Macbeth's castle at Dunsinane. Enter a doctor of physic and a waiting gentlewoman.
I have 2 nights' watch with you, but can perceive no truth in your report. When was it she last walked?
Since His Majesty went into the field, I have seen her rise from her bed, throw her nightgown upon her, unlock her closet, take forth paper, fold it, write upon it, read it, afterwards seal it, and again return to bed. Yet all this while in a most fast sleep.
All right, so we're back at Macbeth's castle, which used to be Duncan's castle at Dunsinane, correct? There's a doctor and a nurse. They call her a gentlewoman, but some versions call her a nurse. So there's a report being made here. We're at Macbeth's castle. You can infer who the report is about. So the doctor says, I have 2 nights watch with you. I've been here for 2 nights watching you, but I can perceive no truth in your report. When was it last she walked? So I don't see what it is you're telling me, right? So the nurse says, since His Majesty went into the field, that means Macbeth is gone out to fight or do something, right? I have seen her rise from her bed, throw her nightgown upon her, unlock her closet, take forth paper, fold it, write upon it, read it, afterwards seal it, and again return to bed, yet all this while in a most fast sleep. Whoever is being referred to here is sleepwalking. So we talked about this motif of sleeplessness coming up. So although the person is getting sleep, they are not sleeping, right? There's no rest if you're doing this. Listen carefully.
A great perturbation in nature to receive at once the benefit of sleep and do the effects of watching. In this slumbery agitation, besides her walking and other actual performances, what at any time have you heard her say?
That's which I will not report after her.
You may to me, and 'tis most meet you should.
Neither to you nor anyone, having no witness to confirm my speech.
Okay, so the doctor says, listen, this is not natural to have somebody receive the benefits of sleep but still be walking around. So sleepwalking might be a fairly new concept, one that they don't know much about, right? And the doctor is asking her, aside from her walking and the performances that you just mentioned, has she said anything? And the gentlewoman, the nurse, says yes, but I will not report after her. I'm not about to say what it is she's talking about. And the doctor's like, listen, you made to me and you should tell me. But the nurse like, no, neither to you nor anyone, having no witness to confirm my speech. So I'm not about to tell you what was being said. And at this point, you can already tell they're speaking of Lady Macbeth. So Lady Macbeth is suffering from sleepwalking. So all those fronts she was putting on about her resting and Macbeth not understanding her resting, she might be sleeping, but she is not resting. Her subconscious is emerging, right? And we can only imagine what she's writing in her sleep and what she's saying in her sleep that this nurse does not want to report. So whereas Macbeth was doing his aloud and having hallucinations, Lady Macbeth is feeling her troubled nature in the midst of her sleep. Listen carefully.
Enter Lady Macbeth with a taper.
Show you, here she comes. This is her very guise, and upon my life, fast asleep. Observe her, stand close.
How came she by that light?
Quiet stood by her. She is light by her continually. 'Tis her command.
Okay, so a taper is a candle. And now the doctor is there. Although he has been watching for 2 nights, Lady Macbeth is up and walking about. So the nurse is like, watch her. And then the doctor is like, okay, if she's asleep, how she got a candle? But the nurse answers, it stood by her. She has light by her continually. 'Tis her command. So she's afraid of the dark now. Lady Macbeth has to have light upon her before she can sleep.
See, her eyes are open.
Aye, but their sense are shut.
What is it she does now? Look how she rubs her hands.
It is an accustomed action with her to seem thus washing her hands. I have known her continuing this a quarter of an hour. Yet, there's a spot.
Hark, she speaks. I will set down what comes from her to satisfy my remembrance the more strongly.
Out. Damn spot. Out, I say. 1, 2. I think it's time to do it. Hell is looking. Fire is our fire, a soldier and beard. What need we fear who knows it, when none can call our power to account?
All right, so here it is. The doctor sees her, eyes are open, but the nurse says their senses are shut. Lady Macbeth is rubbing her hand, right? So she's either doing this or this, right? So you can hear it. And the nurse says she's been doing this for 15 minutes. I've seen her doing it in 15 minutes, scrubbing. What is she scrubbing, right? She says, yet there's a spot. That means a spot is still there. What does she see on her hands? And then the doctor, I don't know if he has too much sense, because the doctor says, I will set down what comes from her to satisfy my remembrance the more strongly. If I were him, I would be like the nurse. I don't know anything, right? I don't want to write down what she's saying. But Lady Macbeth says, out damn spot. This is one of her most famous lines from the play. Out damn spot. 1, 2. What is it that she's counting? Why then it is time to do it. Hell is murky. Don't get scared now. Hell is murky and hot. And then she goes into fussing at Macbeth, right? It's in her subconscious. Fie, my lord, fie, a soldier in a fair, right? She's, why are you scared? So it's like she's flip-flopping back and forth, and all this is being done in her sleep.
Yet, who would have thought the old man to have had so much blood in him?
Do you mark that?
So this spot on her hands is blood, guys. She sees the blood on her hands. Yet who would have thought the old man to have had so much blood in him? I want you to think back to, I believe it was Act 2 or Act 1. I can't remember right now, but where I told you where Macbeth says, all the Neptune's ocean will not wash the blood from his hands. And she goes, oh, a little water clears us of this deed. Apparently not, because she cannot remove this blood stain from her hand. It's still there, right? And now the doctor has heard her say, who would have thought the old man to have had so much blood in him? And this doctor is listening very carefully. Listen up.
The thing if I've had a wife. Where is she now? What? Are these hands melting? No more of that, my lord, no more of that. You are all with this starting.
All right, so you see her flip-flopping. Is Lady Macbeth going crazy? What's happening to her, guys? She's singing. I think that was just, the actress adding that, but I thought it was very effective because it rhymes. The thane of 5 had a wife. Who is she talking about? That would be Lady Macduff. Where is she now, right? So this suggests that Macbeth doesn't even consult with her anymore. You understand? He is doing whatever, because she knows this lady is dead, and she has to know her husband is doing it, because she's like, where is she now? Like, these people are disappearing. It was only supposed to be 1, 2, so maybe those were bodies she was counting. It literally was only supposed to be 1, and then another one came after that, and another one came after that. So now she can't even keep counting anymore with who's dying, right? Because things are out of control. The old man had so much blood in him. And then she's just like Macbeth. What? Will these hands never be clean? And then she goes back to fussing at him, him having his fits. Listen carefully.
Go to. You have known what you should not.
She has spoke what she should not. I'm sure of that. Heaven knows what she has known. There's the smell of the blood still. All the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little.
Okay, so now the doctor gets a little scared. He tells the nurse to go away. Go to, you have known what you should not. And the gentlewoman, she's like, She has spoken what she should not, I'm sure, but I'm sure heaven knows what she has known. All right. And now Lady Macbeth has a hyperbole that mimics or mirrors or parallels Macbeth's hyperbole in the beginning. She says, here's the smell of blood still. You all know how blood smells. I've never smelled blood. My medical students insist it's like a metallic smell, but I wouldn't know because I've never smelled it. But she says, all the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little hand. All right. All the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little hand.
What a sigh is there. The heart is sorely charged.
I would not have such a heart in my bosom for the dignity of the whole body.
Well, well,
Pray God it be, sir.
this disease is beyond my practice. Yet I have known those which have walked in their sleep who have died holily in their beds.
Wash your hands, but on your nightgown, look not so pale. I tell you yet again, Banquo's buried. He cannot come out of his grave.
Even so,
All right. So the doctor is like, oh my God, what kind of grief cry is this? And the nurse is like, I wouldn't cry or want to feel that kind of grief in my heart for all, as my grandma would say, all the tea in China, right? So they want to be well, right? They want her to be well. They see what's going on with her, but they don't know what to do. And the doctor says, this disease is beyond my practice. I have seen people sleepwalk, and those people die wholly in their beds. This has been a nice, peaceful death, but I don't know what's going on with her. This disease is beyond my practice. And here goes Lady Macbeth again. Wash your hands, put on your nightgown, look not so pale, right? So she's talking to Macbeth clearly, right? She's always telling him what to do. And then she says, I tell you yet again, Banquo's buried. He cannot come out of his grave. And the doctor says, even so, Banquo too? They done killed him too. So now this doctor and nurse is kind of privy to what's going on. They can kind of put the pieces together to figure out what is happening here.
There's knocking at the gate. Come. Give me your hand. What's done cannot be undone. Too bad.
Lady Macbeth exits.
will she go now to bed?
Directly.
Foul whisperings are abroad. Unnatural deeds do breed unnatural troubles. Infected minds to their death pillows will discharge their secrets. More needs she the divine than the physician. God, forgive us all. Look after her. Remove from her the means of all annoyance, and still keep eyes upon her. So, good night. My mind, she has made it and amazed my sight. I think, but dare not speak.
Good night. Good doctor.
They exit.
All right. So the doctor is saying there are foul whisperings abroad. Basically, the town knows, the country knows what's really going on, right? Unnatural deeds do breed unnatural troubles. Infected minds to their death pillows will discharge their secrets. I don't care how much bad you do and you try to hide it, what's done in the dark will come to light. That's the message that's here. And then he goes on to say, more needs she the divine than the physician. This lady need God. I can't help her. I'm a doctor. I can't do anything for her, right? God forgive us all. Then he says, remove from her the means of all annoyance and still keep eyes upon her. What does he mean? All annoyance. The doctor is afraid for her life. Lady Macbeth is clearly mentally unstable right now, and he thinks she might harm herself. So watch her and keep everything away from her that may hurt her, right? I have seen this, but I dare not speak about it. I don't want to talk about what I've just seen, all right? All right, so in the midst of the tragic hero video, which I hope you all have watched if we have not discussed it in class at this point, or watched it in class. One thing I know for sure is that Lady Macbeth does not qualify for a tragic hero, but I want to know, do you feel sympathy for her here? Or does she deserve everything she's getting right here, right? That cry seems so pitiful. And for her to be such a strong woman in her waking life to now be mentally distraught in her sleep, what do you think? Do you feel a little bad for her? Because she didn't want to kill all those people, to be fair. She only wanted to kill the king, but she didn't know where this would take us. Like she said, who knew the old man will have so much blood in him? All right, we're going to stop here for today. And hopefully we'll be finishing soon because we are on the final act. I hope you took your notes, even things that I did not say, because we will see this information again. All right. All right, guys, have a great day, and I'll see you all later.